All right. Good evening, everyone. You are highly welcome to today's Health and Safety Interactive Workshop. Uh, I'm glad that we made it again today. So this is just a welcome and a reminder for if we have new members in our midst. Health and Safety Interactive Workshop is a platform where like-minded health and safety professionals come together virtually every Thursday to discuss a chosen topic for the week. So this week, we have agreed to discuss workplace health and safety inspection. So that is what we'll be discussing today. And Steve, should I continue with my slide or we'll continue from there?
And let me just share, let me
Yeah, so go ahead, share your screen, then I will come in there.
Okay. Give me access.
Okay, you can go ahead now.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Once again, as we all know, for today, we'll be talking about workplace health and safety inspection. As we all know, this topic should just form a basis of, will I say, a refresher for us as a safety practitioner, except for those who are really new, who wants to get an insight of what's happened within the profession as a professional. But for us, what we'll be talking today is something that we are familiar with, but as a necessity, refresher is very important as a professional, to just keep us abreast of this vital information. So this topic today, we try to look at, we try to explore some certain areas as regards to workplace health and safety inspection. And this area we're going to be exploring, we touch light on the importance of maintaining a workplace working environment. And also we get to look at the legal requirements. We look at the common workplace hazard. Also, we look at the roles and responsibility of employers and employee. We're going to touch also on this inspection process and also identifying and assessing risks. And also lastly, we look at implementing corrective measure. Okay, so basically, like I've said, it's very important for us to have this at the back of our mind as a professional, so that it can really help us, to grow, and enhance our skills, like I've said. So in order not to keep us waiting for that long, I will, sorry, excuse me, okay. Yeah, I will move to the next slide, which explain the importance of workplace health and safety. Okay, so one of the important, because I tried to summarize it, the informations are very large, but this is a professional discussion. This is not like a training class where we'll put a lot of slide down there, but with a little few points, we can expatiate, and those who have other information can also contribute. Now, one of the few basic importance of workplace safety inspection is human well-being, which is to say a safe workplace is to ensure that the physical and mental well-being of employee are kept, and once you can attain that, this can lead to what we call high job satisfaction, and also it can bring about increase in productivity. Okay, so when the well-being of an employee is very high, then the guarantee of productivity, high productivity is there. job satisfaction is there, okay? Because these workers, they will be okay mentally. So now, for the point number 2, it is important because it's a legal requirement. Every organization must comply to legal requirements. Okay, so companies must adhere to regulations in order to avoid costly fine, lawsuits, or reputational damage. Because we know what can happen when a company fails to comply to legal requirements. When a serious fatality happens within the site, reputational damage will be there. You cannot escape lawsuits, even costly fine, even from the government regulators. So these are things that we are familiar with. These are the legal implications, when company fails to comply to legal compliance. Okay, so the third point here is employee retention. A company that is well organized, that have regular workplace inspection, okay, you see that the environment will be safe for workers. So which means that a safe environment fosters a positive work culture and enhances employee loyalty and reduces turnover rates. Because when the environment is safe, people are happy to come to work. People will not just, even sometimes you see some organizations, even if the employees are sick, they still want to go to work, except the sickness is so severe that they cannot stand up from the bed. They will just want to go to work. It's for you to, this is an indicator for you to know that the environment is safe and healthy for them, irrespective that they are supposed to take sick leave, but they just want to go to work. Okay, so, but an environment that is toxic, I am telling you, you see employees finding even excuses not to go to work. And in such cases, you will see high turnover rate and all that. So it's very important that we all understand this as a professional and also try to educate people who are not aware about this, especially when we are dealing with the top management within our organization. And also, when we touch the legal requirement and regulation, we know that there's what we call the Health and Safety at Work Act. This act, they establish a kind of standard for workplace safety. So this legal requirement has given us or given an organization what to do. And when you check out this Health and Safety at Work Act, you check out the ILO recommendation and convention, and so other many industry-specific regulations, you find out that there's a provision where the employers, are encouraged, to ensure that the workplace is safe. And how can this workplace be safe? A routine workplace or site inspection is mandatory. Because if you don't go out for inspection, how are you going to identify, how are you going to spot out those hazards? Okay. So this thing established standard for workplace safety, like I've said, and also help to enact, and it is established to enact the law to prevent work-related injuries and illness and also fatality. Because if these laws are not enacted, there will be more, imagine, even for the fact that we have those laws, we see the amount of injuries, illness, and fatality that do occur. Okay? At least let's say, okay, for those companies who are not in compliance. But at least because the law has been there, it has been enacted, so you still see some percentage of company complying with it. So just imagine if there is no law, if there's no enactment of this law or act, so you find out that the rate or the percentage of injury will be so much high that we cannot even bear. Okay, so now when we talk about industry-specific regulation, like it could be local, it could be international, but most of the cases are also local. Okay, like when you come to Qatar now, when you go to the oil and gas, you find out that they have some specific standard and regulation that guide the oil and gas industry, the process industry. Okay, maybe you go to agriculture, you go to the healthcare, you go to construction, there are some specific regulation that is guided within those that helps to guide such industry. Like, For example, now when you come to Qatar, we have the QCS, the Qatar Construction Specification. You could see, but we know some industry tried to use it, but originally it is meant for the construction industry. You cannot use QCS in the earth in Ahmad Medical Corporation here. Okay, so you could see that there are other regulation that covers different industry based on their specific nature of hazard. Because you cannot, if you go to the healthcare now, you'll be looking at more of biological hazard, chemical hazard, more than the physical, so that is why sometimes you see some variation. But the main point is that inspection must be carried out, which is fundamental. Okay, and these things are they intend to address industrial or industry-specific hazard, like I've said, that are peculiar to this particular industry. Now, this same law, okay, also creates the rights for an employee, okay, an employee rights, because workers have the rights, according to the ILO and according to the Health and Safety at Work Act. We all know this, except for those of us who are new, who don't have an idea. We can go out and check it, we can download it and see it. Workers have their rights, in as much as employer has the duty or care and all that. So as an employee, you have the right to a safe workplace, and that workplace must be protected from known hazard, which falls back to the responsibility of the employer. They must ensure that all these things are like that. That is why you have the right to work out of sight if you find out that that place is of risk, of high risk, that will lead to injury. You have the right, the legal right to leave without fear of anything, but I know sometimes the environment we find ourselves, the country we find ourselves, the industry we find ourselves will predispose a lot of people to even fear that they cannot come out to say a lot of things. But by law, internationally and locally, whichever way it is designed, you will see that there's a right for an employee, to leave the workplace if it's not safe for you to work. And I just want to mention 1, 2, or 3 common workplace hazards. We have a lot, especially when it comes to different industries. Okay, but I will just focus on 3, which probably we are familiar with. We have the slip, trip, and fall hazard, and this could occur when we have uneven surface, when the floor is wet, or when you have maybe a cluttered walkway. This pose risk of slip, trip, and fall. Okay, and it is encouraged that we implement a proper signage and maintain a clean work area so that we will be able to prevent such kind of hazard of happening. Like when you go to the construction, you see a lot of training cables and all that. You can see chemical spill and all that. So many, but like I've said, if we want to go into all details in all this, we can spend more than 2 hours. But I believe the message we are getting is clear. The message or the explanation is understandable. That is what we need to go on with today. Okay, and also we could workers could be exposed to machinery accident on site, because sometimes the equipment might be malfunctioning. It can lack some kind of safety guard, and also when you have inadequate training, of the operators, this can also increase the likelihood of accident within the workplace, and the maintenance of this equipment is also important, because when we have regular maintenance and training, these are very, very important and imperative that these are available on site. These things are done or practiced on site in order to prevent such kind of risks that are associated with such an equipment hazard in the workplace. Then we also have chemical exposure, especially when we work as most especially in the process industry that require a lot of chemicals that are be corrosive and harmful, even toxic to the system. So it is proper to have a kind of proper storage and handling of this material, you know, in order to prevent one being exposed to the hazardous substance within the workplace. Okay, so because when workers are exposed to all these chemicals, this also will lead to some health implication. And most of the common ones are the respiratory problems come. If the chemicals spill on you as a worker, this could lead to burns, you know, and also there are some other long-term effects which could be cancerous in nature, you know. So it is very important that when we find ourselves in this industry, we should ensure that the necessary appropriate personal protective equipment is established and used appropriately in order to prevent workers' exposure to these chemicals. And also, I want to focus also on the roles and responsibility, okay, which has already been spelled out, even in those laws that have been stated, the Health and Safety at Work Act, the regulation, other regulations and standards, even the ILO. These laws have already empowered the employer to provide a safe working environment. Like I've said earlier, it is the responsibility of the employer to conduct risk assessment, and not just only to conduct or carry out risk assessment, they need to communicate specific policy as related to health and safety to the workers. Okay, and it's also their responsibility to provide training and also provide protective equipment, provide sufficient information regarding the hazard, the risk in the workplace. You know, it is the sole responsibility of the employer to do that. So if the chairman or the general manager or whatever, we are not saying they will be the one to start doing all these things. That is why they have the power to employ professionals who are specialists in these areas. Okay, because you might be wondering, yeah, the MD might not be the one to carry out risk assessment because that is not his level of expertise. But at least it is expected for them to have the knowledge, at least the basic knowledge. So that is why we as a professional, we are here. That is why you see most of the things we are doing for our organization in terms of risk assessment, developing policies, design a lot of things. They are taking their responsibility as employer because they employ us to do those work. Okay, so in that aspect, they are keeping to their legal obligation. Okay, then for us as an employee and for other workers, it is your responsibility or our responsibility to comply to all protocols and procedures that are laid on site. Okay, it is our responsibility to report hazard. We don't just see hazard and close our eyes. You understand? Because it might be somebody who is close to you that might be affected by that hazard, and can even be you yourself that cited it in the first place that refused to report it. So it is very important, and for us as a professional, it is also good for us to design a program to encourage other workers to report hazard, and we should also help, you know, the workers by speaking to the management to ensure that at least the PPE is provided, and also encourage the workers to use it appropriately. One thing is to provide, another thing is to use. We've seen cases, especially in the construction side, you see people, they will go and work on the scaffold with their harness, but they will not anchor it. It doesn't make sense. You understand? So it's a challenge on its own. The equipment, the PPE is provided, but our compliance at the employee in using it is another thing. That's why I see sometimes you go to site, you shout, you're not using element, safety element and things like that. So we have to follow up on that as a professional. Okay. And also, it is the responsibility of employee to also participate in training. Any training program that is provided from the company, maybe through the health and safety department, workers are obliged to attend to those trainings. In fact, it is mandatory. Okay, so and to also contribute to a positive safety culture within the workplace. Now to supervisor, because supervisors are like the lead in charge, you know, of certain group of workers. Okay, maybe depend on the activity they are doing. So it is very, very mandatory that all supervisors, they lead by example. They enforce all safety procedure and protocol, and also address concern promptly, not I don't care attitude, in resolving issues that has to do with health and safety. It's not just only the responsibility of the health and safety practitioner, but health and safety is everyone's responsibility. That is why you see when it involves employer, it also involves employee. Everybody must work together in collaboration to achieve a safe work environment. Okay, so I think the next slide will talk about look at the inspection process precisely. I believe as a professional, most of us, we are familiar with how the inspections are done. We don't just delve into inspection. We just wake up in the morning, we go into the site and start inspecting. Because for everything you do, you need a planning. You need to plan. It's just like when you are carrying out an audit of the ISO system. You see, you have to plan, you have to gather some information, some document and all that. You don't just go to the site, because when you just go on site inspection like that, you might not really be able to get a lot of information that you need. So if you want to go for a site inspection, it should be, the pre-inspection preparation must be ascertained. Where you gather relevant documentation, you have to review even past inspection, okay, past incidents. We have to review, identify some specific areas of focus based on probably the last inspection, that there were maybe weakness or lapses, to be able to focus. Because if you don't bring those things during your pre-inspection process, you just go to site, even where you already identify some issues, probably there was no close out, you might not even visit that site anymore. You might not be able to see it. So, but when you look at all those past document and record, it gives you a map, of at least where to start from. Then you begin to look at other sites. So then the second step is the inspection day itself, like the site inspection proper, where there will be a kind of thorough examination of the workplace to be able to identify hazard, assess the risk level. Having identified the hazard, we have to look and assess the risk level and document our finding. And we all know how it works. For you to go to a site inspection, you need to have a checklist, because those checklists are part of what you need to get in your pre-inspection preparation. Like I said, you don't just go like that. Your checklist will also be like a guide, a map, for you to know what are those things you need to check out for when you go for this inspection. So you don't just go offhand like that without getting a direction. Then thirdly, we need to look at preparing the report and do a kind of follow-up, because in most of the case, it is we from the health and safety that are championing this thing because of our expertise. Okay, so even if we have some other members from the management, they will just be with us to do that. But at the end of the day, we are going to be the one that will prepare a detailed report outlining the identified hazard, recommend corrective measure, and also schedule a follow-up inspection to ensure that there's compliance within the workplace. And also identifying and assessing risk. We all know this as a professional. We have to identify the hazard by conducting regular risk assessment, involve employee in the process is very mandatory, and utilize observation checklists and incident data to identify potential hazard. Yes, all these things are very, very important. So you see that they repeat themselves somehow, but they are very important for us to identify hazard, because sometimes you might put a control, but that hazard might not be completely eradicated from the site. So you still need to use that as a reference point to check if those things are still available. Having identified this risk or hazard, we still need to evaluate, because during the evaluation, we will be able to identify the likelihood and severity of each of the identified hazard or risk, and as a professional, we'll be able to prioritize control measure based on the potential impact that we can see from our knowledge and expertise level So through that aspect, we can also develop some certain strategy, that we can use to mitigate or eliminate the risk completely or to the barest minimum. And also documentation and communication is also very important. We need to create a system to document risk, like the risk assessment, risk register. So there are a lot of documents available to do that. And we need to establish a kind of communication channels. I think last week we talked about health and safety communication. So there are many ways we can communicate to all the stakeholders, both internal and external stakeholders, regarding the identified risks within the workplace. It is very, very important as a professional to have this refreshed in our memory. And also in terms of implementing corrective measure, it is very important that whatever we provided as a professional, we need to educate, we need to train. Okay, so how do we do this? By providing a comprehensive training program to employees regarding safety procedure, regarding equipment operation, and emergency procedure. And there are so many other procedures depending on the kind of activity they are doing within the site, within the project, depend on the specificity or nature of the work activity or site, like I've said. Then number two, we need to create a safety policy, which is a mandatory that every organization should have. Okay, and when we talk about policy, we have different policies that fall under health and safety. Okay, so we need to have established guidelines. We need to develop policy. We need and procedure. We need to address different aspects of workplace safety to ensure that there's consistency and accountability, at least from the management side, and also continuous improvement. Okay, so there should be a kind of regular review of the safety procedure. We have to carry employee along. The workers need to be carried along in the improvement initiative, and also look for a way to track the progress of the achievement so far, and also implement any update based on changes or circumstance or emerging risks, because in the process, different new risks might emerge. In the process, things might change, due to different plan, due to technology, a lot of things can change. So there should be a room for continuous improvement, because as things changes, risks emerging. You understand? Some risks will eliminate completely, some will be introduced into the system. So all this, we have to look into it as a professional and have this knowledge to be able to help us to make decision, to make contribution. Like in my site today, I will just try to cite an example. Where I'm working, they have I think is a commercial complex, like a commercial property. Okay, that is a mixed property whereby you have the malls, the shop, and also you have the office. They have office space there. Okay, so we are not in charge of this office space, but we manage the entire mall, shopping mall. So, but when it comes to health and safety, I'm the one that manages everything. But what difference between the office and the shop is that people who take the rent, are just different, but I manage everything completely. So I got a call that some staff in one of this office, they are taking this electric scooter. There's one electric scooter and electronic bike. They are taking it to their office. Though I went there, I saw that they parked it along the lobby side and all that. But when I tried to challenge them, they were saying, they are not charging, they are not doing this. But I said, see, we cannot ascertain that, because if I had not come to this place, even if I live here, if I go away, so how can you guarantee me that you might not even charge this scooter in the office? We all know the risk this posed. We've talked about e-bike, electric scooter in one of our things. So we know the implication. As long as it has benefits, it has its own risk, especially in the building, because they were advising them to park it in the basement. Okay, there's provision in the basement, but these people, they were lazy, because where the provision was made is far away from their building block. Okay, so they are just trying to, I don't want to walk this distance to park my scooter. I'm coming from this other side, so let me just take it into the office. But I told them, and I asked the lady in charge of this, I said, send an official email that whatever happens, okay, whatever issue happen related to fire and life safety, that office will be held responsible, because by every standard, it is not advisable to take in. If you want to do it in your personal home, it's fine. But though it's wrong, okay, but this is a public place. A mall is a public place. It's a mixed facility where different people, other people have offices, have businesses there. So we cannot create such kind of risk in such an environment. So even as of today, I received one email, I think from the director, is the lady forwarded to me. How does does that affect the mall? You know, taking such scooter to the office and all that, you know, because this lady is just an admin. So as a professional, what I'm trying to say is that I later drafted a short response, you know, and give to her to send to this man, because the mail was addressed to her, because they're the one managing the offices. So I have to make references, I have to quote, I have to bring some incident that have happened within the US, within the UK. And I also have my slide, which I prepared in the past. I just go, I make a screenshot and all that, and I attach it to what she needs to send to the man. So this man, he might be asking this thing based on ignorance, because he doesn't have the knowledge. That is why it is our responsibility as a professional, you know, because we have this information, we have this access. That is our job. That is what we eat from. That is what we are paid for. You understand? So even if we don't do those things directly in our side, as a professional, what we do every day develops us. Some of this slide I might share it with you. It might be of relevance to you in case you want to argue constructively with your management, in case you want to win the heart of your management, in case you want to win the heart of anybody who is asking you, what is the benefit? Why are you saying we cannot bring this into the world? Can you prove to me? Then you have to prove. And most of the time, you need to give some statistics. You need to give some trend of the happenings around the world. I know we might not have enough statistics in Qatar here. Things might be happening, but we might not have. But generally, we know the scooter issue is not, there's no much laws that regulate it, because it's just an emerging way of my mobility and all that. But then it has its own risks, because the batteries that are used are made from lithium, and we know how risky and how risky it is, especially because you will not know if the battery is damaged, and you go to plug it, before you know, it explodes. And these are things that we can avoid. So these are the claims, these are the reasons that I give to her. So this is just an example of what I'm just trying to say. So it is very important as a professional for us to have all this at the back of our mind, so that we can be able to defend our points anytime, any day when we speak as a professional, not just an empty professional, a professional that knows his job very well. Thank you very much for giving me your time to listen to this short presentation. I would like to hand it over to Mr. Johnson to make his own contribution, and if other people has anything to contribute to this discussion. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Steven, for that wonderful presentation. Like we all know, our workshop is for individual contributions. It's not majorly for one person to keep talking, but the presentation is just to launch us into the discussion itself. So we have listened to Mr. Steven, and most of what I have in my slide has been covered, but I'll just share briefly one or two slides, and we'll lift up the floor for others to contribute. Okay, so this is what I want to share, and on the virtue of some other side jobs that we do. So we'll be able to find out that most times, most of the NEBOSH IG exams, this particular question repeats itself. And they ask how often should health and safety inspection should be done. The question is not likely, it doesn't just come exactly like this, but this is actually what it means. So there are some considerations that should be put in place to determine how often you should conduct inspection. So as a health and safety professional, though you know that this is your job is, it's just, this is where your job revolves around, conducting inspection and producing a report. But in a setting or in a place where there are other things to be done, so how often are you supposed to conduct inspection? So we'll just look at the parameters or maybe some of the conditions that would determine how often you are supposed to conduct a health and safety inspection. So the first one is legislative requirements. So what the law says about health and safety inspection and what your organization's procedure, what your health and safety procedure says about your inspection. Like in your health and safety plan, how often did you write in your plan that health and safety inspection should be conducted? So these are what should give you that answer. If you are supposed to conduct inspection daily, if your health and safety plan or your organization health and safety procedure says you should conduct inspection daily, or you should conduct health and safety inspection weekly, then that is the answer. So there is no like general principle that fits all. It depends on the organization, depends on the type of activity going on. Another criteria or another factor is past incident records. So if your organization is having a regular incident or the number of incidents are increasing, then is an indication that you have to increase the frequency of your inspection. That simply means there are some hazards that are not identified, and that there are some underlying causes that you have not adequately controlled. So that is why your incident records are increasing. So it means that you should increase the frequency of your health and safety inspection. Increasing that frequency would help you to spot some of the hazards that we are not able to spot before, and some of the underlying causes, you're able to identify them and put control measures to reduce the accident or incidents that are occurring in your workplace. Now, another factor is the size of your workplace. So if your workplace is so large that you cannot cover everywhere in the same day, so you can make a plan. You can make a plan to inspect a particular session in one day. The next day you inspect the next session. In another day you inspect the next session. So it depends on the size of your work operations. So, and that also depends on the type of activity that is ongoing. So if you have a very hazardous activity going on, or a very risky activity going on, then it should let you know that you should inspect that place more frequently than others, that maybe other activities that are just routine. So the type of activity going on in that location is should be a factor that will let you know how frequent you should conduct your health and safety inspection. Now, another factor is the type of equipment that is being used. So if the equipment that is being used in that operation or in that activity is such that it generates, there are more hazards, or maybe it's more risky than others, then you should know that you should give it more frequent inspection. For example, if activity is going on with, let's say, excavation, and you are using jackhammer and the breakers, which is generating a lot of noise, you know that you should be doing some noise monitoring, routine noise monitoring, and others. So you should increase the frequency of your inspection in those locations. Now, another factor is the number of shifts that that your organization operates. So if you operate like 2 shifts, then there's one inspection conducted in 1 shift. It's not going to cover the other shift. So the number of shifts should also be a factor to look into when deciding the frequency of the activity. Another factor is the new processes or new machineries. So if new process or new machinery are introduced in your workplace and many people are not yet so familiar with it, I think that is it should be a major concern to you as a health and safety professional that you should inspect it more frequently, and especially during the early stage of those equipment to so that you'll be able to find out if something could go wrong, if there are some unsafe conditions or unsafe operation procedures that you will identify during your inspection. So these are some of the factors that you should consider if you are asking yourself what are the frequency of your health and safety inspection in your workplace. Okay, so we have Mr. Stephen has actually pointed out some of these principles, what you should, the procedures you should follow to conduct health and safety inspection. The first one is that you should draw attention to the presence of any immediate danger. So if you are conducting your health and safety inspection, don't wait until you have finished and you come to office to write report, then send to management. No, whatever you observe immediately at the workplace, draw the attention of the supervisor and ensure that it's closed out immediately. These are some of the steps you should, or principles you should abide while doing your inspection. The other principle is that you should lock out any hazardous equipment that you find during your inspection. Another thing you should bear in mind is you are not an operator and you are not a trained operator. Do not operate any equipment. You should call on the operator to do the operation while you watch and while you observe and inspect whatever you need to inspect. So don't say because you want to do inspection, you start operating the equipment that you are not authorized to operate. Then another thing you should do is that you should never ignore any item that you feel is not accurate, or any item that you think that you cannot make accurate judgment. Don't ignore it. Seek for expert advice. Ask the supervisors, ask the engineers, what is going on here? Can you explain why this is like this? So just because you do not understand it completely is not an excuse for you to just overlook it or maybe assume that everything is okay. So whatever you think that is a point of concern to you, even if you don't understand it, ask some the professionals there to explain. So while they are explaining and while they are carrying out their activity, you can be able to identify if the procedure is safe or not. Another thing you should do is you should look all around. Don't just focus in one direction. Look up, down, right, left. Look in all the directions during your inspections. So I have 3 other points. Ask questions, but do not use your questions to interrupt activities. So you are permitted to ask questions, especially you can ask the supervisor who is not doing any of the physical work, he's just monitoring. So you can ask him what is going on. And you, in that process, while he's explaining, you are also observing so that you can determine if the procedure is safe or not. Another thing you should do is consider both dynamic and stop position. So what this simply means is that if the machine is shut down during your inspection, so you can just allow it to remain and come back again when that machine is in operation. So that because there are a lot of things that you will not observe while the machine is just in standby position. So don't just say you have inspected the equipment while it is on standby position and no, it was not in operation, it was not moving, you are not going to see a lot of the things that you've come to inspect. So you can postpone your inspection of that equipment and come back when it's already in operation. So another thing you should do is discuss as a group. There's some hazards that you will omit sometimes. That is why in the construction field, there's what they call a walkthrough. So in that walkthrough, some of the professionals, maybe consultants and contractors, they come together and they walk around the workplace and they identify hazards and unsafe conditions together. So this will like open eyes of different people. What others overlooked, some honest will pick it up. So it will also help to identify some hidden hazards. So the other last but not the least is that you should not detect all hazards by just relying on your own senses. You should always read manuals. You should always use monitoring equipment. For example, if activity involving noise is ongoing, don't just come there and say, ah, this activity is too noisy, and you stop it. So you need to have record. You need to have monitor the noise level with monitoring equipment and document your records before you take any action. So taking pictures of different angles will also help you to produce a clear evidence and can help in your judgment as well. So this is the few points I want to contribute, and we'll keep the floor open for others to contribute now. Thank you very much. Okay, the floor is open for other contributions. Just go ahead.
Mr. David.
Yes, Mr. David, go ahead, unmute and continue. You are muted.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much to the both of you that have spoken on the subject today. You've both, in fact, spoken on the legislative aspect, regulations, and standard with regards to the topic on inspection. However, I just want to share my own practical experience in terms of implementation of our inspection. Inspection in our construction site is done in different forms, you know. One of the forms in which we ensure inspection is through the management walkabout inspection. So this activity is usually done once on weekly basis. That's the frequency we operate. So what we do, there is a system we adopted, just like the first speaker made mention of, you know, having a comprehensive or a robust checklist to ensure that we do not rely only on our own self knowledge or brain, but also we are being guided by industrial best practices. So in that checklist, we have different safety KPIs and indicators, So from these KPIs and indicators, it comprises of all the critical construction activities and HSC processes ranging from work attire, confined space, excavation, lifting, operation, so on and so forth. And for each of these activity, we developed a smile board. We have a smile board because the site is very big. So, and it's divided into different sections. So we have area A, area B, area C, and area D. So for each of these area, they were assigned a specific smile board. In that smile board comprises of all of these activities that like that I just mentioned. So when we go for the inspection, we are evaluating the site in terms of unsafe condition and unsafe acts. So, and we are measuring and gauging the compliance level to the checklist that we have. So for each smile board, and in that smile board, we have both housekeeping is there, confined space is there, um, excavation, lifting. So when you go, depending on what you are inspecting, equipment, power tools. So if it's power tools, there is a question, that you need to go through to ensure that, yes, as that piece of equipment or power tools, has it met these criteria? Is it functioning properly? So we check all of that. If everything seems to be in good condition, sometimes it could be fall arrest system, it could be PPE. So if everything seems good, of course, you score them. We have a score of 0 to 3, depending on the range. So you will score them. And we do that, based on any of these elements that is applicable to the site as at the time of the inspection. So those are the ones we focus on. We do the scoring. So at the end of the day, our smile board has 4 different colors. So we have green color. That green color tells you 100%. It gives you 100%. We have next to it is an orange color. So that orange color is 75%. And next to that orange color, orange color is yellow color. So that yellow color is 50%. Then, of course, we have the red color. So that red color tells you it's more like what it means is fake. So based on our risk metrics, sometimes we tell you once it's red, it means you need to shut down operations immediately, and you need to go back and for a proper risk assessment to be carried out. So for the orange color, that tells us that everything looks good, there is compliance, but however, little improvement needs to be made. So for the green color, that tells us everything is okay, everything is perfect. So there is full compliance with regards to that particular indicator. So that is how we measure, our performance after the inspection process. Then as we are carrying out the inspection on the site, someone is dedicated, like a scribe or an admin, an HSC admin, who jots down every observation from the team, that have gone out for the walkthrough. And this thing comprises of, being that is a construction site, it comprises of the site management, all right? If there is any senior management or top management that is around on the site, they have to participate in the walkthrough with us. Then, of course, safety. So basically, the role of safety there is to support the construction team. Actually, the walkthrough is made for the construction team to champion. They must champion it because it is their areas of operation that we are going to perform this inspection. So if they are part of the group as we are going, maybe for a particular company, their own management is there. Their construction manager could be there or their project manager is there. So wherever we come across any issue, the decision maker is right there. So he sees the problem, he knows what action to take. We can refer to him immediately and say, sir, you can see this for yourself, So that's one thing we appreciate. Then secondly, what the senior construction management does is that, because these are the people that make decisions when it comes to allocation of fund and resources, right? So there are some observations that will be raised that may involve budget. So that's one way we appreciate them, because they are there, they see it for themselves, so they can be able to prioritize that, okay, this thing, they need to take this action. It makes it a lot easier for the safety, and they are fully aware of it before the report, is accumulated. And before we go on this walkthrough, we do have a briefing, all right? We have a briefing to state sometimes our briefing we may open to show that, okay, this may be our area of focus, depending on the criticality of the activity ongoing on the site, because we may be having too many hazardous activity or CMOPS activity, depending on the area we are visiting. So we might just tell them that today our focus is going to be more on CMOPS, artwork activity, working at height. So we just give ourselves maybe 4 focus indicators. So that way we invest we put in all of our energy, in this area. We spend more time in this area because most times the time for the inspection is limited. We might just schedule only 1 hour. So we spend only 1 hour. Then at the end for time anyway, at the end of the inspection, so we have a debrief. We have a debrief where everybody will share their findings, their observations, and what mitigation are we taking, what control are we assigning for that observation, for that hazard, in order to close that hazard. And while we are saying all of this, the HSC admin or the person nominated to take down, to record the findings, we note everything down just to be sure that none of the observation is omitted. And of course, the inspection process, talking about the walkthrough that I've really focused more on, is a very good tool, that helps to improve the site condition and also ensure continuous improvements. And inspection for me is one of the legal and other legal requirements that should be met. I think is in line with the ISO 45001. So inspection comes under, meeting the legal requirements in OHS. Thank you very much. I will stop here so that others can speak as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. We appreciate your practical and wonderful contribution. Okay, do you have any other hands up? All right, if no one is speaking, we can end the call. It's already past 7. So thank you all for coming today. I'm sure that we've learned 1 or 2 things. So please send me direct message if you are requesting for certificates so that we'll prepare it on time. And if you have not subscribed to our Facebook and our YouTube channel, please do so that you can go through our other videos. Like when Francis was talking, he made mention of electric bike and scooters workshop. We've discussed that before. So, and that video is on our YouTube channel as well. So you can listen to it and gain some insights as well. Engineer Taya, yeah, go ahead. Engineer Taya, your hand is up.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity for discussing such a wonderful topic today. So actually, I observed throughout the session and just few minute moments I just missed. So I just want to participate, not too much, but at very few seconds. This topic is steering me to participate because inspections in the workplace is very much mandatory for safety of the worker and saving the life, because historical data should keep maintaining risk registers and also keep in custody all the time before doing any risk assessment for safety management system. So that's all about it today. And this session such a wonderful insight relevant to the inspections and health and safety. All the things you have discussed at very much level. And thank you very much. for such a insightful session today. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Engineer Tayab. We appreciate you all for showing up today, and I'm sure that we learned something and we are going to improve our knowledge as well. So thank you all for coming. Next week, Thursday, we have another session by 6 p.m. as well, but I will keep you posted on the topic. So thank you guys for coming, and do have a wonderful day ahead.